So this is chapter 3. Chapter 3, we start talking about the cell. And this video will be specifically about some of the most important organelles of the cell. So if you have the handout, you can follow along and write as I click through the PowerPoint and talk to you. So we're going to just begin. Cell can able to take in food, rid itself of waste, it can reproduce, and it's made up of three main sections. And so the first section is the plasma membrane, also known as the cell membrane. And so in lab we've talked about that. The cell membrane or plasma membrane is what's going to control what goes in and out of the cell. So then we have the nucleus, and of course that nucleus is the main headquarters of all the information for the cell. And then we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is that area outside. So everything outside the nucleus in between the cell membrane and the nucleus is known as cytoplasm. And so when I was in school, we learned the cytoplasm was the jelly-like stuff. They have now gone a little bit further and they've separated that the liquid portion is actually called cytosol. So again, here's our nucleus. All this area outside is known as the cytoplasm. Area outside the nucleus, it is consisting of your cytosol, which is the jelly-like substance. If you've ever made a cell model when you were back in high school, this again is just kind of an overview of biology. So it's this liquid portion that is on the outside of all these organelles, but it is on the inside of the cell. So all this liquid portion is called cytosol. It is also referred to as intracellular fluid, or ICF. Now we're going to talk about ICF quite a bit. So just know that that is what's inside of the cell is the ICF. And the function it is to help dissolve solutes. We'll talk about that. Help the cell to maintain its shape. And we talked about how the cell membrane is going to control what goes in and out, but the cytosol itself is basically holding everything in place. And so this next little thing is kind of cool is called cytoplasmic streaming. And so you're seeing some of the chloroplast of plant cells moving around. So I think it's kind of cool. Notice they're square because plants have a cell wall. We don't study plants here in anatomy. We're going to just talk about human cells, but it does kind of look cool. So in plasma membrane, also known as cell membrane, when I was in school it was called cell membrane, and it has been renamed plasma membrane. That's why I'll take either. So it is made of lipids. It's actually a bilayer of lipids, and it's got these protein channels stuck in between it. So it has a lipid bilayer and these protein channels. So there's our lipid bilayer, and it has proteins stuck in between. Okay. And so the function of the plasma cell membrane is to determine what can enter and leave the cell. And we will have a whole little discussion about things coming in and out of the cell. That is our next conversation after we get through our organelles. So some things are small and can go right on through the lipid bilayer, but there's going to be some things like glucose. It's too big and it's going to have a special protein channel, like a bigger doorway to go through. And so we call that semi-permeable, and that means semi, sort of. Permeable means penetrate, so it only allows certain materials to come in and to go out of the cell. So that's what that means. And it tells you to draw. So you can draw this. I'm going to go to a blank page because I'm going to show you how we're going to kind of draw it together eventually. So, and again, I don't draw well, but I try. So it's got this head portion and this little tail portion, and I'm just going to draw a few of them here. And then the tails go towards each other. So you'll see me draw all this quite a bit. And then it's got these proteins. So this is a protein. And we'll just draw a few more just where we can get an idea. And this would go all the way around the cell. So in lab, it's just that white structure on that cell model, but it's much more complicated in this. And so what I'd like you to know that this is the lipid bilayer. Of course, that is the protein channel. That makes sense. And so the lipid bilayer, the little guy has a head, and it's got a tail. And why that's important? Well, if this were our cell, and I'm not going to draw all these around, but just if this were our cell, this would be inside the cell, and these would go all the way around, and this would be outside the cell, and this would be inside the cell. And so, this is the ICF, intracellular fluid. This is the ECF, which is the extracellular fluid, which means outside. So there's this fluid on the inside and the outside of the cell, which has water quite a bit in it. And so do you notice the tails? There's water in here and there's water in there. They don't like water. They're facing each other. The heads, on the other hand, do like water. And we have a term for that. So if you're scared of something, you probably have a phobia. So the tails, we say, are hydrophobic. They don't like water. Don't like water. Water. Oh, that was supposed to be an R. Water, no. We don't like water. And then the head is called hydro. Hydro means water. And it is philic. Philic means to like. So this loves water. Loves water. Hates water, loves water. And they'll turn that direction in order to stay away from the water. And that's kind of an important characteristic of the lipid bilayer. All right, I'll see you on the next video, and we'll go over the nucleus.